Kilayim. Uh, uh,
Zion.
Zion, Zion Dalit. If one causes his vine to overhang his neighbor's cereal crop, he renders it forbidden as responsible for it. Reb Yossi and Reb Shimon say a man does not tender forbidden that which is not his. Um, this is interesting because this is exactly what we were talking about yesterday in my kibbutzah with doing truma, and
Yeah.
the whole thing's very interesting. Rabbi Yossi says that it once happened that a man sold his vineyard in the sabbatical year, and the matter came before Rabbi Akiva, who said one does not render forbidden something that is not his. If a violent intruder sowed a vineyard and it was recovered from him, he cuts it down, even on the intermediate days of a festival. How much must he pay the laborers? Up to a third. More than this, he cuts as usual, even after the festival, and from when on is he called a violent intruder, from the time it is forgotten.
Okay. Zion. Haruach she'il alai sagafanim al gabe tavua. So you had everything nicely settled. You had your vineyard over here, and you had your wheat over there in a nice, separated far away from the vine. But vines grow long tendrils, and this one was a loose tendril, and the wind blew it so that it went over the wheat. Okay, so this wasn't an intentional thing. That's the first most important thing. It wasn't intentional. It's not going to cause any issur. Okay, but what must he do? Yigdor miad. Not only must he pull it away, but he has to make a fence, and he has to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So he's
Mhm.
got to make some sort of fence to block the vineyard from encroaching onto the wheat field. Im er or ones mutar, and if he was prevented from pulling it back by some kind of an ones, like he saw the issue and he was on his way out when he tripped and twisted his ankle and couldn't get there and had to be taken for medical treatment or whatever. No, and in the meantime, the thing carried on growing over his wheat field. Again, still mutar because he was trying. It wasn't through a neglect over here that it that the grapes continued to grow. It was beyond his control. It- Tavua Soshehayon not tachas gefen. So now let's say it's the other direction. Let's say again this is more likely to happen if you've got just a single vine. So you've got a single vine and 6 tvachim away, you've got some wheat growing. And the wind blows so that the wheat now comes under grapevine. Okay. And what do you have to do over there? V'chein b'yarak, same thing goes with vegetables. If the vegetables started growing and pushed over under the grapevine, machzir ve'enu mekadesh. Okay, so take it and push it back. Now you notice that the language over here is a lot more lenient than it was by the vine. By the vine you have to say ignore. You have to pull it back because we know that first of all the mechanism. I was just thinking about the mechanism of Isser for the grape and the other species is not equivalent because the grapes are served by their vertical space, by the fact that they are below or above the other species. With the other species, all that you're worried about is where they're actually planted, is where their roots are. So if something grows onto the side, you push it back. No, no, not the biggest deal, unless if it's one of these things that will take root somewhere underneath the gap, and then again the problem is the root. Me'emasai tevuah miskadeshes. At what point is produce susceptible to becoming aser because of kilaya karim? Because again, kilaya karim is only talking about when there are edible species that are growing. If you just have grass growing underneath your grapevine, that's nothing. We don't care.
Mm.
Okay, you don't have to uproot your grass. There's nothing edible there. And the same thing goes for some produce that's growing underneath there. If it's just like a little shoot that's pushed in that's pushed out there, no, it's not
Yeah.
you'll have to uproot it, but in lechatchila. But if you left it there, all that's going to happen is that you'll have to uproot it later. But the produce that actually has to be burned and it will cause the grapevine to become damaged. That's probably more the point. Is Misha Tashrish. When Misha Tashrish sounds like when it's when the when it sends roots into the ground. Okay. Um, Actually, so what was I saying? I was saying the wrong thing. Amos had to miskadeshes from. So beg your pardons. I'm wrong. That if the ultimate end of the produce, let's say we've got wheat, if your wheat takes root in the ground, as soon as it takes root, um, it will. You know what? I was thinking of the alternate. There's an alternate reading, Mesha Tashlish, with a lamed instead of a resh, when it reaches a third of its growth. Um, So that's but according to the first reading of this Mishnah, it's as soon as it puts roots in, as soon as it strikes root, and if you see it, you have to rip it out, and if you don't, then it will cause your vineyard to become kilayim. Anavim. Okay, what about the grapes themselves? The grape that the grapes will become aser. Mishe asu kapol halavan, when they become as big as a white bean. Okay, tavua she yavsha kol tzorka. What happens if the produce has grown completely and it's dry and it's completely ripe? Well, let's say wheat. Okay, and then the grapes start encroaching into the wheat field. Anavim, similarly, anavim shebashlu kol tzokan, or grapes that are completely ripe, and then some other species starts growing nearby them. Einan miskadshos. Those fruits do not become asr because they're already complete and they're viewed as if they're already detached from the ground, from the vine, whatever. Nonetheless, you still have to uproot them because the stems and whatever of the vines might have to be destroyed. But the fruit will actually not become asr if it's already completely ripe. Okay, atzitz nakov. What about we saw in Demai about the perforated pots, right? And we saw over there that a perforated pot is treated as if it is as equivalent to as if it's actually planted in the
Right.
ground. Okay, so you see the halacha pretty much exactly the same here as we would over there, as you might imagine. Okay, atitna kov mekadesh bakerem. If you've got a perforated pot inside the vineyard, that we treat it as if it's planted in the ground, and it'll be mekadesh. She'enu nakov. However, if it is not perforated, if it's not connected to the ground, einu mekadesh. You're still not allowed to bring it into the kerem, but that's now an issa d'Rabbanan.
Mhm.
Doesn't look good if you bring it in a pot, and also it might bring people to thinking that it's okay, and they'll actually put a perforated pot in there. Rabbi Shimon disagrees. He says, "V'zeh osrim v'lo mekadshin." In both cases, the perforated pot, even the perforated pot, does not cause kilaya kerim. Um, his reasoning is unclear from the commentary over here. And I don't remember him being a Bal Machlokes when we spoke about it in Demai. So I
Mhm.
think there must be some special lomdas that he has about Kilaya Kerim that a pot is not 100% the same as planted. Hamavir atzitz nakuv bakerim. So if somebody is transporting a perforated pot through the vineyard, which is unrecommended,
Yeah.
im hosif b'masayim asur. So if he was carrying it through and while he was carrying it, it grew, and I don't like you'd have to be walking very slowly for this to happen.
Yeah, 1/200th, right?
But if it grows by 1/200th, then you've caused kilaya karim, and you're gonna have to burn down part of your karim. Okay, so Perik Shmone. Now we move out of the subject of kilaya karim, and we're moving into kilaya behema. But the first Mishnah brings out it's actually a very good Mishnah to go over and remember the basic principles over here because it contrasts the different forms of kilayim and what the level is of isser in each case. So kilaya kerim asurin milizra milakayim. So the most stringent form of kilayim is kilaya kerim. Okay, you're not allowed to plant them, and you're also not allowed to maintain them. If you see them, you've got to uproot them. The asurin bahana, and any produce of kilaya kerem has to be burned. No benefits allowed. Okay. Then we have kilai zerayim, just planting regular foreign species, wheat with barley or something like that. Okay. Kilai zerayim, asurim milizra umilakayem. You're not allowed to plant them, and you may not maintain them if they were planted together. Umutarin ba'achila. However, if they did grow together, they are nonetheless permitted.
Mhm.
Okay. V'chol shekain ba'ana, and for sure you're allowed. Once you're allowed to eat them, obviously you're allowed to benefit.
And not,
There's
right.
some versions of the Mishnah that omit that phrase because why would you even mention it? Because it's such an obvious statement. Okay, kilai begadim. Now what about shatnez? Kilai begadim. Mutarin b'chol davar. They are completely permitted for everything except v'einan aserin ela mililvosh. The only thing you're not allowed to do with kilayim is wear them or have any bodily benefits. So, for example, like put a cloth over your hands or sit on if you're sitting with your bare flesh on kilayim, that's also kind of a levisha hana that you're getting from it. But to trade in kilayim, you're allowed to use kilayim as a shade over your head, no problem.
As
Okay.
long as, so you can have a closet full of clothes that's shotnets, and it doesn't matter as long as you don't wear it. You're
Hmm.
okay.
I wouldn't say it's recommended, but
Right.
but as you say, it's
Can you,
there's no isser. There's no isser except to wear it.
if there's a guy who's not on the up and up, so to speak, and he has this Kilayim, this outfit that's shotness, can he sell it to a Jew? Or does he get, is there Malchus involved in that? Or is there something?
No, there's no Marcos. It's possibly a lifnei iver, and
Right, right,
but selling it
right,
to a guy for sure would be allowed.
right.
Okay, kilai behema. Now, crossbreeding animals, if they are already crossbred, so let's say you've got a mule. Okay, kilai behema mutarim legadel ulakayim. You're allowed to feed it, you're allowed to keep it, you're allowed to work it. The enam asurim eda mila harbia. The only thing you're not allowed to do is do the actual crossbreeding of the animals. Once it's happened, mutar. Kilai behema asurim ze bezeh. And furthermore, animals that are not allowed to be bred with each other, also not allowed to work with each other. So you cannot harness them together.
Right, right.
And also, what's also possible is we have to look across. If you've got like inverted parentage. So, for example, the if the mother is a horse and the father is a donkey, and they have a mule from that. And then you have another one that where the mother is a donkey and the father is a horse, and it's also a mule that comes out of that. But you're not. But those two offspring are considered kilayim with each other
Mhm.
because
So we had this book,
they have inverted parentage, even though they're two of the same.
we had this in another Mishnah also, where the two animals can't work together. They can't
Yes, we're going to see that's
plow.
in this barrack.
Right. Okay, good.
Okay, let's go back
Okay.
to
Um,
Dalet Tes.
yes. If one plants his vineyard 16 cubits apart, he may bring seeds there. Rabbi Yehuda said it happened in Talmon that a man planted his vineyard 16 cubits apart and turned the tips of the branches of two rows to one side and sowed the plowed ground. And the following year he turned the tips of the branches to the other side and sowed the plowed ground. And the matter came before the Chachamim and they permitted it. Reb Meir and Reb Shimon say if one plants his vineyard 8 cubits apart, it's also permitted. A vineyard that has been laid waste, if 10 vines can be harvested with one beit sod, then they are planted according to the law. It is called a poor vineyard. If a vineyard has been planted in an irregular layout, there are two opposite three. It is a vineyard, but if not, it is not a vineyard. And the mayor says since has the appearance of vineyards, it must be a vineyard. Um, a vineyard which is planted less than 4 abits apart, Reb Shimon says it is not a vineyard, but the Chachamim say it is a vineyard, and the middle ones are regarded as non-existent. Okay.
All right. Peach Ches.
Yeah. Paya. Um, he who possesses 200 zuz may not take leket, shikha, or paya, or masa'ani. If he had 200 less one, then even 1,000 give him together, he may take. If they were mortgaged to his creditor or to his wife's ketubah, he may take. They do not compel him to sell his house and his utensils. Whoever has 50 zuz and trades with them may not take, and whoever does not need to take and takes will not depart from this world before being in need of his fellow men. And whoever needs to take and does not take will not die in an old age before he will support others from his own. Concerning him, Scripture says, "Blessed is the man that trusts in the Lord and whose trust the Lord is, and whose trust the Lord is." And similarly, a judge who delivers a truly righteous judgment and whatever is neither a chaiga, is neither nor blind nor pisa, or who feigns to be as one of them will not die in old age before he becomes like one of them, as it is written, shall you pursue, and every judge who takes a bribe and perverts judgment will not die in an old age before his eyes grow dim, as it is written, and you shall take no bribe, for the bribe blinds those who have sight.
Adjon Allah, Maseches Peah, and one Mishnah from Gemara.
Goodbye. Well, the following are treated leniently in respect to Demai: wild figs, jujube fruit, crab apples, wild white figs, sycamore fruit, unripe dates, guffin, and caper fruit in Judea, also sumac, vinegar, and coriander. Rabbi Yehuda says all wild figs are exempt except dufra, and all jujube fruits are exempt except the jubu fruits of Shimona. All young sycamore trees are exempt except that those that burst open. I don't know if they had this in South Africa, but I remember when I was a kid going to the movies, they had some kind of candy called jube or something like that. Remember
Uh,
that?
it sounds, I mean, just
Before your time.
anything could
Before
be.
your time.
Yeah, it sounds like I've heard a lot of things that are there.
Um, okay, we have Makshirin. Regarding second year produce that was greater than produce of the third year, and produce of the third year that was greater than that of the fourth year, and produce of the fourth year was greater than that of the fifth year, and produce of the fifth year that was greater than produce of the sixth year, and produce of the sixth year that was greater than produce of the seventh year, in and produce of the seventh year that was greater than produce of the year following the seventh year, we follow the majority. If half the produce is from one year and half from another year, we rule stringently. Regarding a sack that is filled with produce which one placed on the riverbank or over the opening of a cistern or on the steps of a cave where the produce absorb water, all the produce that absorb water is included in the law of water is placed. Rabbi Yehuda says all the produce that faces the water is included in the law of water is placed, and all the produce that does not face the water is not included in the law of water is placed. Regarding a barrel that is full of produce and was placed into a liquid, or a barrel full of liquid and was placed into a produce, and the produce absorbed liquid, all the produce that absorbed liquid is included in the law of water is placed. And they said this with regard to those liquids, with regard to water, wine, and vinegar. But with regard to all other liquids, the produce is tahor. The Nechemia rules legumes tahor, and but for legumes that do not absorb. Okay. Regarding a bed that was Tomei Midras, if one long board broke and the owner repaired it, it is still Tomei Midras. If the second long board then broke and he repaired it, the bed is Tower from Midras Tuma. But if Tomei, but it is Tomei due to contact with the Midras Kazav. And if he did not manage to repair the first board before the second board broke, the bed is Tahor. Regarding a leg of a bed that was Tamei Midras and one connected to a bed, becomes Tamei with 7 days. Super page? Yeah. The entire bed becomes Tamei Midras. If a leg is removed, it is Tamei Midras, and the bed is Tamei due to contact with a Midras Chadav. If the leg was Tamei with 7 day Tuma and one connected to a bed, the entire bed becomes Tamei with 7 day Tuma. If the leg is removed, it is Tamei with 7 day Tuma, and the bed is Tamei with evening Tuma. If the leg was tummy with evening tumor and one connected to a bed, the entire bed becomes tummy with evening tumor. If the leg is removed, it is tummy with evening tumor and the bed is tahor. And the same rulings apply to the prong of a pitchfork. Regarding the filling consisting of 4 utensils, if one separated the first compartment and then repaired it, and if he is tummy with corpse tumor, and the same applies to the second compartment, and the same applies to the third compartment. If he separated the fourth one, the fill-in is tahor from corpse tuma, but it is tummy with tuma due to contact with the tamei mace. If he went back to the first compartment and separated it and then repaired it, it is tummy due to contact, and the same applies to the second compartment. If he separated the third compartment, the entire fill-in is tahor, because the fourth one is only tummy as a result of contact, and an object contaminated through contact with an avatuma cannot create tuma through contact with a utensil.
Okay.
Sanhedrin. Three kings and four commoners have no share of the world to come. The three kings are Yerovim, Achav, and Menashe. Rabbi Yehuda said Menashe has a share of the world to come, as it is stated, and he prayed to him, and he allowed himself to be entreated and heard his plea, and he returned him to Jerusalem, to his kingdom. They said to him, he returned him to his kingdom and not to the world to come. The four commoners are Bilam, Dog, Akdipol, and Gehazi. The generation of the flood has, oh, that was it. I'm sorry. Okay. The generation of the flood has no share in the world to come, nor will they stand for judgment, as it is stated, my spirit shall not be contend evermore concerning man, neither judgment or spirit. And the generation of the dispersal has no share in the world to come, as it is stated, and Hashem dispersed them from across the face of the whole earth. Hashem dispersed them in this world, and from there Hashem scattered them from the world to come. The people of Sodom have no share in the world to come, as it is stated, now the people of Sodom were wicked and sinful toward Hashem, exceedingly wicked in this world, and sinful in the world to come. However, they will stand for judgment. The Muhammad says, neither these nor those will stand for judgment, as it is stated, therefore the wicked shall not stand for judgment, nor the sinful in the congregation of the righteous. Therefore the wicked shall not stand for judgment. This is the generation of the flood, nor the sinful in the congregation of the righteous. These are the people of Sodom. They said to him, they shall not stand in the congregation of the righteous, but they shall stand in the congregation of the sinful. The spies have no share in the world to come, as it is stated, and the men who brought out an evil report about the land died in a plague before Hashem. They died in this world and a plague in the world to come. The generation of the wilderness has no share in the world to come, and will not stand for judgment, as it is stated, in this wilderness, as it is stated, he sent them to another land as of this day. Just as it stayed never to return, so they never to return. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Eliezer says, just as the day darkens and then becomes light, so the 10 tribes for whom it became dark now have a future that becomes light for them. Dalit. The people of an opposite town have no share in the world to come, as it is stated. They went out, wicked men from your midst, and they led astray the inhabitants of the town. They are not beheaded unless those that led them astray are from that town, and that tribe, unless the majority of the town has been led astray, unless they have been led astray by men. If they were led astray by women or children, or only a minority was led astray, or if those leading them astray were from outside the town, they are treated as individuals. They require 2 witnesses and a warning for each one. This is the stringency of individuals over a multitude of individuals are stoned. Therefore, the property is spared, and the multitude are beheaded. Therefore, their property is forfeit.
Okay.
Okay. And
Beta.
an egg, which was laid on Yom Tov. Beit Shammai says it may be eaten, but the Hillel says it may not be eaten. Beit Shammai says leavening as an olive's bulk, and chametz is as drying date. But Beit Hillel said this and that is an olive's bulk. One who slaughters game or fowl on Yom Tov, Beit Shammai say he may dig with a shovel and cover, but Beit Hillel says he may not slaughter unless he has dirt ready for the day before, and they agree that if he slaughtered, he should dig with a shovel and cover, for ashes of a stove are accounted prepared. Beit Shammai says one does not move a ladder from a dovecote to a dovecote, but one inclines it from an opening to an opening. But Beis Hillel permits. Beis Hillel says one does not take unless he stirred them while he was still day. And Beis Hillel said he stands and says, I will take this one and that one.
Okay, and we're done.
Thank you very much.
Have a lovely
Have
day.
a great day. I got you out on time. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.